Make sure you guys follow us on all social media at Pharma Soccer on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Also, hit up our Patreon for extended interviews. And speaking of interviews in this third segment, we have a special guest. It's not Stephen Robinson, although he is with me on this segment.
Yeah, we all know that I would never get that great of an intro, let's be honest.
We have joining us today a center back for Nashville Soccer Club, the first ever draft pick for Nashville Soccer Club, the older brother of the hero of the Big Ten semifinal that happened earlier this week, the one, the only, Jack Maher. Jack, welcome to the pharmacy.
Appreciate you guys having me on. Thanks.
So I got to ask, obviously this is being recorded before the championship game. Do you settle that time into your schedule to make sure you watch Joey play?
Absolutely. And it's not only Joey. I mean, all my best friends are still at Indiana, and my class that I would be in if I was still in school would be that senior class. And so being able to watch all those guys, they're honestly like brothers. And so being able to see those guys, it's a must. Have to work it into my schedule. And they got a tough game against Penn State, so I think they'll get it done though.
Do I have to set a rule about the amount of Indiana University talk that we are going to have on this show? I mean, I don't want to put everybody to sleep, but I do feel like, Clay, you got more? What do you think?
I mean, we can get into it a little bit later, but
let's just keep it going,
Yeah, I am wearing an Indiana shirt. I am from Southern Indiana. I did grow up with the Hoosiers. It is what it is. So, first off, this year started out with you on loan, which I'm sure, there's some positives and negatives to that. But now you find yourself, Nashville's in the playoffs. You're playing a huge role with this team. And you're surrounded by a lot of veterans on that back line, guys like Dave Romney, Walker Zimmerman. What have been your emotions, I guess, down this stretch run of the season being so involved in the team?
Yeah, I mean, it's been fantastic. I think whenever you look at where we started at the beginning of the year, trying to work my way up the depth chart, and we have some of the best center backs in the whole entire country. Dave Walker, Defender of the Year. I mean, these guys are very, very, very good center backs. And so not really knowing if we would ever switch to a potential 5-back was one thing. I might have to beat these guys out. I feel confident that I can do it, but it's one of those things these guys are pretty established and veterans, so it'll be very difficult. But going out on loan was honestly the best thing for me. We talked about it with Mike Jacobs, and he said, this loan spell is going to be short. It's going to be one just to sort of ramp you up and get you ready to start getting games, because we know right around the corner we're going to have Gold Cup, and so Walker's going to be leaving, and sort of all the things that you think of behind the scenes, or we don't think of behind the scenes, Mike Jacobs is thinking about. The small details that this guy thinks of are ridiculous. I just go out there and I try and kick a soccer ball and I try to win games. This guy, all the behind the scenes details are taken care of, and it was something that I never even thought about. And being able to go under Landon Donovan for a month or so was honestly incredible. And so fantastic experience. And now here we are in the playoffs.
And for the listeners at home, that would be former University of Evansville head coach Mike Jacobs.
There it is. Yep. Okay.
Let people know where he comes from. So
there it is, Clay.
I just want to how different was that conversation? Obviously, last year started out on loan as well, albeit a lot shorter than you probably expected. How different was that conversation this year, where you've made your debut the year before, you've had your time with the club, and now you're going out on loan again? How different was that conversation from last year to this year?
Yeah, I mean, it really wasn't all that different because of Mike Jacobs. Whenever he's talking to me and some of the other young guys, it's all about, having belief in you, that it doesn't matter what setting you're in, you're going to be successful. And he's been able to find guys, whether it's Alistair, Luke Hawkinson, Elliot Panico, these guys, it doesn't matter the setting they're in, they're going to find a way to be successful and going to help their team.
So that sort of goes right into the next thing I was going to ask you about. So obviously you come back on loan. I'm assuming you were back before it was announced, as you were announced like right before the game as being back on loan and then starting the game. We'll get to the goal in a minute, but you get into a game that you're starting. You've got Alistair starting with you, Luke Hawkinson coming off the bench and then being the hero late in the game. And Luke, obviously, you went out on loan with him with Charlotte last year. Like, goal aside, setting aside, was that really like kind of surreal to you, the way that all played out?
100%. I mean, it was pretty weird. So in the course of the last 2 years, I've been rooming with Alistair each and every day. Like, we have an apartment here together. And then whenever I was on loan in Charlotte, Luke and I were living together. And it's the conversations that you just have, like, oh, what if we're like in the MLS and scoring goals together and all this stuff. And for it to actually take place and be the 3-2 thriller of a game that it was, and Luke Hawkinson to have two goals, one walk-off, tarps off. This guy's incredible. But no, it's so surreal. And I was just really happy to be part of it.
So gotta talk about the goal, though. I mean, I don't know what your expectations are when you go into a game if you're out there, because you look at a guy like Walker Zimmerman, you think Walker's probably thinking he's going to score a goal almost every time he plays.
Yes.
Even though he's a defender, the way he gets up on set pieces, like having that goal fall to you, maybe in a way that you didn't totally expect, it's fall into your feet instead of winning a header. Like, what was your process seeing that hit the back of the net in your first game back off loan? Like, just the way things lined up.
Yeah, it was incredible. First off, I think Walker in a different life was a striker. I think this guy could bag some goals as a striker. I'm just throwing that out there. He's very good. But so Walker, right before the game, ends up coming over to me and he goes, all right, Jack, on set pieces, literally just run right behind me. And so anything that he misses, I'm going to be able to get. And it was crazy how it worked to a T. So the ball goes over his head, and like every team does, they probably have 3 guys on Walker. Mm-hmm. And then I was just pretty much free at the top of the PK spot and just tucked it home. And then in the celebration, this was the best part. So I normally don't celebrate that much. I'm pretty focused, like our next 5 minutes got to be good, all that stuff. So I was forced to celebrate on the goal. And if you look closely, I had no idea how to celebrate. It was crazy. So Dax takes me and sort of like guides me along. He goes, okay, first go like huddle with your team. All right, now we're going to go over to the fans. And he's just like guiding me, shepherding me towards the fans and all you guys up there. Steven, you're absolutely losing it as usual, but it was fantastic.
Yeah. So Dax not only a leader, like while play is going on the field, very much a leader taking you under his wing on how to celebrate a goal, as if Dax is some major goal scorer.
I know. When you play 400 games, though, he's been around the block.
Yeah. So on the other side of that, like we'll talk about other games, but this is just such a wild way that it all. Watching Luke, having had those conversations, having coming back from Charlotte and staying with the major club while he continues to play in Charlotte, you having such a good seat to watch him kind of have his moment. How does that feel for you as a friend, former roommate?
Yeah, I mean, this guy behind the scenes works as hard, if not the hardest person in the organization. And the time that he spends in like the off season, it was me and Luke, Alex Muil. We got here around January or something like that, like really early January, and went to this, like, I'm not even sure where the park is, but this park, like a rec field, and Steve Guppy is our assistant coach, of course.
Of course, Guppy.
Of course, Guppy's involved somehow. And we're doing like 1v1s. It's freezing cold. You guys have experienced some Nashville winters. It's freezing cold, and we're going at each other for probably like an hour or so. And this guy is elite 1v1. I want to see this guy actually be able to go 1v1 against some like top level defenders, because I think he's going to make them look silly. He's a fantastic player, and just for him to have that moment and me being on the field to experience it with him, It's honestly my my first game, or not my first game, but my debut and all that return game, I guess we could say. That is going to be one that I, of course, remember for the rest of my life. But it was so special, not only for me, but for Luke. We talk about it all the time, and it's just one of those games.
Yeah, so kind of moving forward from there, you know, a lot of times you hear people talk about playing, they talk about how big like confidence is. And you've mentioned like going out on loan and trying to keep your confidence high. And have you hit, like, are these the type of things that you think about if you have like a tough moment or a tough spell, or you give the ball away in a tough spot? Like, is this what you like draw from, or do you just kind of just try and keep it moving?
Yeah, it was actually really cool, and sort of like it just flipped the switch for me. Whenever I was on loan um, with San Diego, I ended up having this like 30-minute conversation. Just me and Landon were just sitting on the field after practice, like stretching. He's sitting on the ground just talking to me, nice one-on-one conversation. And he comes to me. It was probably 2 or 3 days after like I practiced with him and this stuff.
Mhm.
He goes, Jack, whenever you're on the ball, just envision me saying, Jack, have confidence. He goes, you're a very, very good player and you're going to have a really long career. But just remember, whenever you have the ball, Jack, have confidence. And it was like this flip. He just flipped the switch, and this is Landon Donovan. Like,
Right.
this guy is all time telling me to have confidence and all that stuff. And coming back, I just sort of listen to that and really try and just play with confidence, because it is so, so, so important.
Well, and we've seen a couple players come out of San Diego the last few years where there were players who maybe not exactly in your situation, but for whatever reason didn't have confidence. And then, you know, he's the whisperer out there. He kind of draws it out of everyone.
100%. My roommate, whenever I was staying, it's crazy how many like roommates and how successful they've ended up being.
Right.
But Miguel Berry was my roommate out in San Diego, and this guy is bagging goals right now. I think he has probably 5 or 6 for Columbus. Like, an incredible year. He was only there for half the year, scoring 5 or 6 goals. I mean, it just speaks volumes on who you surround yourself with, and just I've been lucky to have winner roommates.
Do you now say Jack, have confidence in a British accent? Now envisioning that Gary Smith.
Yeah, I envision Gary saying it now. Jack, have confidence. I can't even do a British accent. I won't even try.
What's the difference between having, you know, within reason, let's not get anybody in trouble, but within reason, the difference between going from Landon Donovan as a manager to Gary Smith as a manager?
Yeah. So I think the biggest difference is honestly, it's 2 sides of the ball. So whenever I was in San Diego, it was honestly all about going forward and what we're doing with the ball.
Mhm.
Of course, it's Landon Donovan. And then I'm back in Nashville, and Gary focuses so much on the defensive side and being extremely organized, very difficult to break down, and just finding Hani Mukhtar on the break whenever we can and let this guy do his Mukhtar magic or whatever you want to call it. This guy's been incredible. And I think, knock on wood, of course, but I think he'll win MVP. I sure hope he does. He deserves it.
Yeah, it's been pretty incredible to watch. Now, Steven, in his the way that he is trying to get some bonus points by having a Jack Maher jersey.
Whatever. It's not bonus points. It's been up here the whole time.
You know, like, we talked about you playing now. We have you on the show. We have to bring it up. Obviously, draft day for you was a very different, probably, experience than the way it was in the past, because it was no longer at the coaches convention, but also a bit of a weird experience in general for the way that it played out. I unfortunately had a meeting with a future boss who ended up not getting hired, so I really made the wrong decision.
Oh no,
true story.
But Steven did go.
I did.
So the moment went viral a little bit in MLS Twitter. Just a bus of people showed up at your house, and so
yeah,
I'm sure that was a strange experience for you. I know it was a strange experience for Steven, but like, let's talk a little bit about that. Like, Did you have any inkling that someone would be there from Nashville, or was it just complete like staring at the TV? Wait a minute.
Yeah, so I had absolutely no idea. I mean, I have an extremely good agent, and this guy 100% knew and kept it under wraps. So I was thinking, like, you know what do I pay you for here? Like, these are the things I would love to know if someone's coming to my house. Like, that's pretty crazy. And the other little hint that I didn't realize at the time that I probably should have is just the amount of like ESPN camera crew people that were there. Like, I wasn't even thinking anything about it. I was nervous. I was like, where am I going to end up? Miami, Nashville, wherever. And then you just see it on the TV. It was actually a little delayed as well. Yep. I actually hear Steven leading the chants outside my house before, like, I can even see it on the TV. I'm like, that sounds a little too natural for like our audio system. Like, I don't know about that. And so we end up, they're like, hey, Jack, go outside. Like, people are here. Like, they're like, you're going to Nashville. I'm like, okay. Walk through my house, see you, Steven, leading everyone in chants. And I'm like, I have no idea what to do again on how to celebrate. What do I do? So I go and like hug people. I don't know. I just like let my emotions get the best of me, but it was fantastic. And thank you, Steven, for honestly being there. It was so cool. Not only you, but the 40 other people that came. It was such a cool experience. And honestly, hats off to you because you made my draft day so special. And so props to you, honestly.
I mean, in all reality, if that is like not knowing how to celebrate, your genuine celebration is going to do just fine, sir, because that is still a gift. Your celebration is still what we use to this day in many celebrating circles. I saw your face after the goal light up, as it should. No, it was an honestly incredible experience. And a lot of you may not know this as well. We all went out to eat afterwards. After the whole event, what have you, Jack decided just to drive up and meet us all there and give us the ability. And this was at Red Robin, by the way. It was hilarious. But just drive up and meet us there.
Sponsor the pod, Red Robin.
Yeah, shout out.
And we got to have, just more time, and we really appreciated it. I don't know if you remember this, but I invited you out for your 21st birthday. Of course, that didn't happen, but that's okay.
COVID. That's my excuse.
That's true. You got a point. But no, that was, I'm glad that it's something that lives with you. It was a memorable experience for us, for Clay, who doesn't like you apparently and didn't show up. I don't know, Clay, but here we are. It's okay.
If I would have known we weren't hiring the dean that we were interviewing that day, it would have not been a problem to get on that bus. So you got to make a good first impression.
Facts.
Which
apparently Steven did. So
Which funny thing about you sent us all a gift, right? You sent us all the signed kit, and we all got a postcard and everything, like just thanking us, which I love it. I still have it in a sense, where I lost it one day and I had no clue where it was. Then I get a call from a buddy of ours, Angelo, who's a friend of the show, and he's just like, I have something important for you. You have to go the whole next, and this is after I shaved my head. You have to go the whole next match without a hat on to get it back. And I'm like, wait, what is it? It was the note that you sent. And I'm like, crap, I can't replicate this. I can't not have, so I go 45 minutes and he's just like, I was just kidding. Oh, no. All right. Anyway, sorry. I took this a way different direction.
No, I mean, this honestly reminds me of last year or on my birthday, when Walker Zimmerman and Matt LaGrassa decided to stick 10,000 cotton balls in my car. That was crazy, but it was a nice little prank that they did, but it just reminded me of that.
Well, I mean, you get bonus points from us for just the Matt LaGrassa reference. Obviously, he's very close to those of us that have been around here for a few years.
OG, him and Taylor.
Absolutely. So I have to ask this, because this is kind of a little bit of a weird thing that I remember from when you got drafted, and then kind of doing some reading here before you hopped on. like you were able to play against professional players like before you got into college, playing with St. Louis FC for a couple matches. Like, how did that come about? Was there any push to maybe forego college and kind of pursue a professional career as a teenager? I mean, St. Louis Scott Gallagher, big program, produced a lot of big time players. One of them, Josh Sargent, obviously. Like,
100%.
what was that sort of analysis for you going into? Do you go to Indiana, or do you maybe try and push something different? Was that ever in your head?
Yeah, so it was definitely my junior and senior year of high school. I ended up being on like this academy contract with like amateur contract, whatever you want to call it, with St. Louis FC. And of course, you guys know USL team in St. Louis at the time until they folded or whatever. But that was just an incredible experience. My first year, I remember we were getting coached by Preki. And let me tell you, I was struggling that year. I was honestly probably, just keep this between us, of course. But
oh yeah, for sure, just between us. Nobody listens to this.
Just between us. But playing professional and like with that caliber of player was so different to anything I had ever experienced in my life. For the good portion of the season, I was one of, if not the worst player, every single practice. And so being able to sort of know, like, you know what, Jack, you have a long way to go if you want to be a professional and like pursue your goal. So that's when I sort of got my stuff together. I was like, all right, this is something I want to do. Doesn't matter how many like hours of work or whatever I need to put in, but I'm going to do it. And so I was able to just continue developing, and being in St. Louis with Scott Gallagher and everything like that. They had some of the best coaches in the country, and I was able to just continue developing. And that led me to Indiana. That was honestly like, whenever you look at it as, you know what, I was with the USL team for 2 years, and now I'm going to college, which some would say is a little bit of a setback. And so that sort of helped me thrive and just end up being able to go 2 years at Indiana and then getting picked second by Nashville. And so it's just weird how those first few years of just struggling and doing all that stuff ended up propelling me to sort of where I am now. And it's one of the things that I will talk about with some of the young guys or some draft picks that we get here, is that, you know what, they're going to be a year or two of just absolute struggle. And you're going to have to go through it, because, you know what, these professionals have been doing it for years. And these guys are incredibly experienced, incredible players. And it's going to stink for about a year or so. But if you can get through that year, you will be able to excel. And just the growth is exponential on how you go about it after.
So I'm going to pick up on that. I just want to point out that being coached by Preki and Landon Donovan means that he's been coached by 2 former Everton players. Just
Stop!
Want to that out.
Will you stop it?
Clay's got them all.
Off the toppies. So you sort of alluded to it there. You know, your draft class has mostly come up. You know, we talked about Luke, we talked about Alistair, we talked about you, of course. The other guy being Elliot, who we've mentioned here. Is this the side?
He's actually calling me right now.
That is wild.
That is weird.
Wild.
That is weird.
That's crazy.
You just can't make that stuff up.
Yeah.
Continue, Clay. Oh my
That's
gosh.
insane. Anyway, so how's that conversation going to go with Elliot?
Yeah, it's going to be great. No, continue, Clay.
Well, I was just meaning like he's the guy who hasn't quite gotten up. He's been in the match day squad. He's traveled with the team, but he hasn't seen the field yet. Or is this the type of conversation that you would have with him? Like, hey, like you're making progress. We're getting there, you know?
Yeah, 100%. And goalie's a weird position because, you know what, there's 2 center backs or potentially 3 center back spots, but there's only 1 goalkeeper. And Joe Willis, I mean, 13 shutouts this year, and I think he had the most shutouts last year. It's just tough. We're such a deep team, and competition, especially in the goalkeeper area, is very difficult. But he goes out on loan, and I think he was 4th or so for like the Golden Glove Award.
Yeah.
Which,
and he had the highest save percentage too, I believe, in USL.
100%. And so this guy is an unbelievable goalkeeper. It's just waiting for your time, and it's putting in that 1, 2, 3 years of, you know what, you're probably not going to get any recognition now, but do the dirty work anyways. And so that's just the type of guy he is. And it's honestly crazy looking at it now that you can definitely tell the type of player that's a Gary Smith player. That's a Mike Jacobs player. That's honestly a Nashville player. And we sort of like to embody the city in a way, because it's a blue collar city and one that you're going to have to put the dirty work in to get the rewards that you want.
Yeah. Don't want to take up too much of your time, Jack, but I do have to bring it up. Speaking of competition, actually, this is the worst segue of all time, but we're just going to roll with it here. So Annabelle Godoy has commented that you have the worst style in the squad. This was on the Between Two Posts thing. Care to comment on that?
This is a hot take, and I totally disagree. You know what? If I would throw anybody under the bus, my roommate Alistair Johnston, worst style. I'm just passing the torch. We're just gonna keep it going.
Canadians.
Canadians.
They got no style.
Different style up in Toronto too. He doesn't know what he wants. Is he an American? He's got an American girlfriend, living in America for a long time. Or is he Canadian? I don't know. He needs to decide as well. His style sort of resembles both.
All right. What is the biggest beef that you have with Alistair as a roommate?
Oh my gosh.
Oh, this is so good. What is the one thing that
what's the one thing where you walk in and you're like, this guy? Like,
this guy.
Is it when he drinks all your milk?
Yeah, no, he doesn't, thank God. I wouldn't be roommates if he did. I wouldn't be roommates. You can't do that, Clay. But that's a tough question. Honestly,
that means he has an answer, but it's not one he feels safe saying on the radio.
Yes, I definitely do. I got to keep it PG for our audience. I don't know who's watching, but this guy takes an unbelievable amount of naps. Like, we're playing cards or something like that after practice, or playing Fortnite or whatever we do. And he's like, I got to go take a nap. He will be out for 2 hours. We're like, all right, like, what are we doing here? I don't know. I just try to keep it PG. That's my best answer, though, Clay. It's nothing crazy.
That's a good one, though. That's hilarious. That's a great one.
Yeah. Hey, any sort of, if you ever feel like starting the beef, like in a big way, just let us know. We'll broadcast it. We'll get it out there. We'll start the beef.
I like that.
Yeah, if he says anything about you, like, just contact us. Like, we'll make sure that we get something out there as well. We'll work together on this.
I like that. I know where to go to.
All right. Well, thank you once again for joining us here in the pharmacy. We will absolutely love to have you back, and some point down the line, maybe after a successful MLS Cup run. We'll see what happens.
I agree.
But with that, we will head to our final segment. You're listening to Pharmaceutical Soccer right here on 102.5 The Game.
Jack, have confidence.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you guys for having me.